I wouldn't like to change so much the way we live as what we live in and how we live in it.
Frank Lloyd Wright's innovations on the interior of the home, along with technological and cultural advancements, have made the open floor plan one of the most desired architectural features of today.
Throughout history, the less complex a home was, the less exceptionally it was perceived. Wealthy people and royalty lived in stately homes with endless sprawls of rooms and decor, while poorer, more common folk would often live in single-room homes that served as shelter and not much more. When settlers came to America, they brought with them these same expectations that had been commonplace both in Europe as well as to Native Americans. Not only were they architecturally constrained by social norms, but also by the engineering abilities and functions the home served at that time. One of the most prevalent deters of a more open floor plan was and is the ability to heat the space that has been created. In a time when the fireplace was the easiest and most common way to heat a home, having large open spaces was extraordinarily undesirable because almost all heat produced would be lost. The containment that came with both single-room small homes as well as grand homes with many walls within was not only stylistic but also a conscious necessity to keep its occupants warm. For these reasons, the homes built at this time were very climate-specific. A home built for a New England winter would not be replicated to withstand a Georgia summer. Along with protection from the elements, walls provided privacy between families as well as separation between the servants and owners of a home. Hired help was a common occurrence for both middle and upper-class families alike. Because of this, homes of almost all sizes included their kitchen in the back of the house, away from living areas, to keep views of labor to a minimum. In larger homes, these kitchens would often lead directly to servants' quarters for live-in, full-time domestic helpers.
Until the American Revolution, domestic architecture in the United States typically featured compact, symmetrical design. Following the Revolution, a simple, classical style was adopted. It wasn't until after the Civil War that the open floor plan became widely used. This change is largely attributed to Frank Lloyd Wright.
Victorian architecture, the buildings were mostly square or rectangular, and the rooms were square or rectangular, and you had boxes within boxes, rooms within interior space. He's the guy that he said that when I designed the Hillside building, which was built in 1903, which is also at Spring Green, he said when I designed the Hillside building, he said I broke the box of Victorian architecture.
Frank Lloyd Wright believed that American architecture should be entirely different from that of Europe. In 1867, when Wright was born, houses of traditional European style were very common. Traditional European architecture features a compact, multi-story design. Victorian-style homes are a common example of domestic European architecture. Homes with a Victorian design have many closed-off rooms and spaces. This is the type of architecture that Wright wanted to break away from. Frank Lloyd Wright's most prominent achievement was developing a new style of domestic architecture called Prairie Style. This type of architecture features flat roofs, long horizontal lines, and an interior centered around a chimney. One of the most famous examples of this style is Wright's Roby House. In reference to the Frederick C. Roby House, Wright stated, "The prairie has a beauty of its own, and we should recognize and accentuate this natural beauty, its quiet level, hence gently sloping roofs, low proportions, quiet skylines, suppressed heavy-set chimneys, and sheltering overhangs, low terraces, and outreaching walls sequestering private gardens." The Roby House is a unique design that includes all aspects of Wright's signature style. One unique aspect of Wright design that is displayed in the Roby House is the integration of nature into the interior of the home. There were two main ways that Wright accomplished this.
You use common building materials inside and out. So for example, if you go to a lot of Wright buildings, the outside will be made out of a particular stone, and then when you walk inside, you'll notice that the walls will be made out of the same type of stone.
The second way Wright brought nature into the home was with large amounts of glass. The Roby House includes many windows, which allow for light to reach indoors, as well as the scenery of the surrounding area.
One thing Wright felt important was the clean lines of his art. He disliked radiators or other systems that may have been necessary but unsightly. For this reason, he took inspiration from ondol, an ancient way of heating the home invented in Korea, in which stones underneath the floor are heated by a fire, making the floor warm. Wright took this idea of radiant heat and made it possible for his homes by piping hot water underneath the floorboards in his designs. He called this gravity heat. As Wright grew in popularity, servants became less and less commonplace. the many women that had made up the population of domestic employees in America started working towards rights for themselves and all women, greatly diminishing the workforce that had been formed by a repressive culture. This gave Wright the opportunity to have diversity in his domestic architecture as he designed both homes with servant areas and homes very much without. His Seth Peterson cottage, which was built almost 50 years after the Roby house, was built to be inhabited only by the owners of the home. Its petite size, along with the wishes of Seth Peterson himself, make for a more flowing space. While the flowing open style, like that of the Seth Peterson cottage, dates back as far as ancient Roman times, the open floor plan did not begin to appear regularly in domestic architecture until Wright.
Wright was able to popularize the modern open floor plan with the design of his Usonian homes. When the Great Depression hit in late 1929, people could no longer afford the unnecessary rooms and extra space that had been built into houses in years prior. Wright, who was in the midst of his career, began designing single-story homes with central kitchens that opened up to a main living area. This design allowed for families who no longer had the means to employ a servant to easily entertain guests. These houses also began the trend of ridding of formal dining areas and instead opting for a more casual arrangement. This open layout was the main inspiration for the many ranch-style homes built after World War II that still make up American suburbs today. After Wright's death in 1959, the invention and popularization of things such as the dishwasher, microwave, and ready-made meals made it tremendously easier for families to cook for themselves. The combination of a call for better conditions for domestic workers throughout the early 20th century, along with technological advancements, made the need and desire for a family servant drop exponentially from Wright's early days up to the 1970s.
Full-time domestic help in today's America is something reserved for the uber-rich. While there are some modern examples of architecture that kept such household workers in mind, it is not part of most people's experience. This major drop in households utilizing domestic help has made kitchens a central, dynamic part of the home, not one that's hidden away. Because families are cooking their own meals, it's a common choice to make the kitchen very open and central, so that whoever's making a meal is able to entertain guests, converse with the rest of their family, or do other such social tasks simultaneously.
Wright's style was not always as widely accepted and beloved as it is today. One of his now iconic designs, the Imperial Hotel, was mocked by fellow architects, being called, quote, an impractical monstrosity. The Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, opened in late 1959, was widely campaigned against for its unconventional curved walls and sloping floors. Wright, who sadly passed away before the museum's construction was completed, responded to the opposition by, in his own words, discounting it as worthless. Wright stood strong in his beliefs of how buildings should flow, and it paid off. The Guggenheim is arguably Wright's most famous design.
While his flamboyant public buildings, over-the-top luxury homes, and iconic prints may be the obvious legacy Wright left, his major contributions to the homes of America's working class is his silent gift to our country. Usonian design, along with Wright's signature style, set the precedent for functional homes that also keep comfort and design in mind. Open plan has come to be one of the most widespread terms and trends in the home design of the past decades. The central kitchen, a staple in open-concept homes, would never have become mainstream without advancements in the laws protecting the domestic workers of our nation, or the invention and popularization of appliances such as the microwave that make it as simple as ever for families to cook for themselves. Once this barrier within our nation was broken, Wright's ways of integrating nature into the home and the home into its surroundings were able to contribute further to the favorability of the open plan layout. In modern day, it is common for a home to have many windows and connection to the outdoors through natural design.
When radiant heat is used instead of forced air, this connection is further unobstructed. The barriers Wright broke were not only physical in the destruction of interior walls, but also metaphorical in how we view ourselves within nature. Wright reinvented the home to serve the American lifestyle. His refusal to back down in the face of opposition, along with his lack of conformity, have made today's homes nothing short of all-American.
That the box was a fascist symbol, and the architecture of freedom and democracy needed something beside the box. So I started out to destroy the box as a building.